The road ahead now winds into what appears to be countryside, but not the pastoral kind with babbling brooks and singing birds. This is the eerie quiet of forgotten rice fields, overgrown and shimmering under a too-white moon. Bamboo groves shiver without wind, and scarecrows lean crookedly as if eavesdropping on your passing thoughts. Inside the bus, the air is thick, not with scent exactly, but with something more difficult to name, like ancestral breath, like pages of an old book opened for the first time in centuries. You inhale it anyway. No use resisting at this point. The conductor hums again. This time it's lower, slower. He walks the aisle once more, still not touching anything but gliding, as though gravity has different preferences in here. He stops beside an elderly woman asleep in her seat, her head tilted toward the window. Her hands are folded on her lap, holding a small lacquered comb. A hairpin rests beside her on the seat. She hasn't woken in 87 years, the conductor murmurs, mostly to himself. You raise an eyebrow. Most passengers don't, he adds, not unkindly. Not unless they're ready to remember. Outside, the landscape shifts again. No one drives the bus, and yet the direction is purposeful, as if the vehicle is not steering but being summoned. You arrive at a crossroads. 4 dirt paths divide beneath a wooden signpost, so ancient the lettering has faded completely. At its base is a simple wooden bench. On it, a man sits with one hand outstretched, and a string of beads coiled like a sleeping snake across his palm. He lifts his chin when he sees the bus. His face is wrapped in cloth, and only one eye is visible. It glows faintly blue. He raises his free hand, not in greeting, but in acknowledgement, as if he expected you. Then, as if on cue, the bus doors open with a sigh. The man doesn't board. Instead, he tosses a single red bead onto the step. The bead rolls down the aisle. No one moves. It stops at your feet. No one tells you to pick it up, but you do. It's warm and humming. When you look back up, the crossroads is gone. So is the man. The path outside now leads into what looks like a shrine garden, weathered torii gates, mossy lanterns, and hundreds of stone Jizo statues watching in perfect silence. Their faces are calm, but the eyes seem almost aware. Lost children, says the conductor. All remembered, all named. Each statue holds a tiny offering, dolls, sweets, a single paper crane. A few even wear hand-knitted hats, threadbare from age and wind. Some of the hats sway, though the air is perfectly still. Historians still argue whether the Jizo beliefs of the air cools as the bus climbs, not in the way nights grow colder, but like you're ascending through layers of time. The windows fog slightly at their corners, and outside, the world warps into an older palette. Inkstone black, faded jade, paper lantern amber. You pass a tea house, its windows flickering with dim candlelight. A few silhouettes bow silently over porcelain cups, unmoving. Their stillness feels too perfect, too permanent, like inked figures on a scroll. Spirits of the waiting, the conductor says. They missed their ride centuries ago. Some think the tea helps. He doesn't elaborate. Instead, he begins to whistle. A long, slow note, rising then falling, like a memory remembered halfway and lost again. At the next curve, a bell chimes. Not a loud temple bell, but a soft tinkling from above. You glance up. Tiny bells dangle from the ceiling now, strung along silk cords like forgotten charms. They weren't there before. Neither was the small paper tag fluttering over your seat, with your name inked in an unfamiliar hand. You didn't tell him your name. No one did. The bus slows again, not with urgency, but with ritual. The doors open onto a narrow mountain path, lined with lanterns so old their wood has grown mossy, their paper faded to parchment yellow. The path curves out of sight, swallowed by low-rolling fog. From the mist, a figure emerges, barefoot, robed, and holding a wooden placard etched with prayers. He boards wordlessly, bows to the conductor, and takes the seat directly behind you. He smells faintly of camphor and riverstone. He places the placard across his knees and closes his eyes. "New monk," whispers the conductor. "Died mid-chant. Still finishing." You don't turn around. Outside the windows, the foxes are gone, replaced now by paper kites caught in tree branches, old festival remnants left to fade with the seasons. Some flutter slightly, though there's no wind. One depicts a woman with a flowing kimono and no face. The bus's light flickers once, brief, but noticeable. The monk behind you doesn't stir. You clutch your red bead again. To your right, a young man in fisherman's garb slowly fades into view. He wasn't there earlier. He's holding a carved wooden oar and stares straight ahead. On his lap sits a basket filled with water that never spills. You blink, and the water has koi swimming in it. They don't seem concerned. Historians still debate the folk stories of the Ubasute Mountains, whether elderly villagers were truly carried away in secret to die, or whether such tales were allegorical warnings for younger generations. But as you watch the monk, the fishermen, and the strange flow of passengers that come and go without ever shifting in their seats, you begin to suspect allegory wasn't always the point. The bus halts once more, this time longer. A tree stands before you, alone on the mountainside. Its branches are completely bare, but from each twig hangs a small wooden tag, swaying rhythmically. These are ima, wishing plaques. But these are not prayers of hope. You peer closer and realize they're apologies. "I'm sorry I left. I'm sorry I stayed. I'm sorry I didn't speak. I'm sorry I did." Hundreds of them, each swaying like an unanswered message in the windless dark. The conductor rises and steps off the bus. No words. Just a small bundle in his hand, a silk handkerchief, bound at the corners. He hangs it gently on a low branch. The bus waits. He boards again, nods to no one, takes his place, and you move on. Something inside the vehicle sighs, like an old wooden house shifting after years of quiet. You begin to notice that the aisle has lengthened. There are more seats now than you remember, and some stretch deep into the shadows at the back. Far too many for a single route. A girl with braids 2 rows behind you whispers into her cupped hands. You don't hear words, but the air around her ripples like heat on stone. The monk hums, barely audible. The fisherman adjusts his basket. Everyone is doing something, except you. You're not quite sure what you're meant to do. So you look at the red bead again, and you wait. A light appears in the far distance, soft and orange. Another stop, another memory maybe. The road begins to smooth out beneath the wheels, as though you're now coasting on polished stone or lacquered wood. And just ahead, on a hill shaped like a sleeping fox, you see the outline of a small shrine. Its doors are open, and someone is waiting at the threshold, holding a lantern. Their face is hidden, but their posture is unmistakable. They know you.